mean, I was able to get Undaunted to level 10 fairly quickly.
I'm just disappointed this one doesn't have the two-hander up there, because the destruction staff will be there soon, but like, yeah, the two-hander's not quite. It's a 43 and I stopped. Also, got werewolf level 5.
That's another thing. I've never been werewolf or vampire form. I don't even have the skill lines on the main character.
You get a die for that as well. What's up, my man?
What's that?
You get a die for that as well.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, you get a nice die. Yeah.
I wasn't playing when vampires were a thing, and I never knew. I still don't know how to like properly get it, and just not willing to look it up online. So.
Oh, you just turn
What,
up,
like,
turn
how
up,
to become
turn up a shrine.
without someone biting you?
I mean,
If I hadn't used my only bite this week, I'd give you one if you needed one, but I've used it already.
I've got bites. I've got bites if you want one. I've got loads of tunes that have got it. What? Either vamps or werewolves. Oh, bless you, Randy. But I'm actually, I didn't realise, and I was pointed out to Randy the other day, I've actually got the pre-vampire part where you actually get bitten by a vampire on one of my tunes, and I know that I haven't been anywhere near a shrine. So I've been bitten by a spawn at some point, I didn't even realise it.
That's a thing.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
I forgot
That's how you get it, yeah.
Oh, the natural way?
Yeah, the au natural. Yeah.
Where are those things at?
They spawn,
Random spawns.
Bankrai, Rift, and I think it's, oh crap, what is it? I think it's Malabar.
There's an old myth that you have to, it only happens on a blood moon, but yeah, I think it's at any time. But it does only happen seemingly at night.
It has to be at night, and I think it's like, there's 2 days of the week that you have a chance of vampires and werewolves spawning, and then you just gotta get attacked by one.
Yep, and they infect you.
Interesting.
Okay, looks like anybody who's going to be here is here. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. Appreciate it. I did do a basic talk, so I won't be going over like the basic skills, as it were, but I will be going over some of the focus points of the Templars and their Wardens, and specifically these two because like these are the two most commonly chosen healers. That's not to demean the other four classes because, like, yeah, obviously DK, Sorks, Necros, and Nightblades all have their place. In particular, DKs, I've got a soft spot for them because that's my thing. But yeah, I don't know enough about certainly Sorks, Nightblades, and Necros to give much of a talk on them. So I might give a DK one in the future. Because like that's, as I say, that's my thing. So, okay. So first things first is who's on a Templar and who's on a Warden. Let's see who.
I'm on a Templar.
Okay.
She'll come through to floor.
Templar. Sure. Oh my gosh, is it? Do we have any of the Wardens in? Am I the only Warden?
I just made a Warden, but I don't know her very well yet.
I got a Warden.
Okay. Okay.
I
Gotcha.
have a warden. I just don't use it.
Ah, gotcha. No problems.
Warden is like my main healer, so.
Okay. So I won't start with Wardens then. I'll start with Templars because like it seems like you're more likely to be on that. What I'm going to do is look at the differences in the class especially between Templar and Wardens because they do complement each other so well. But I'll look obviously at what they bring to a trial. Some of the abilities that they bring, and obviously the differences in the way they heal because they do heal very, very differently. You hear the terms, especially in MMO, burst and over time, all the time. Obviously, that's pretty common phrases. I tend to find that there's more burst heals on the Templar than there are on the Warden, but that's not to say that the Warden doesn't have burst heals. It's just maybe they're not quite as effective, of course, apart from let's talk about this one, which is crazy effective. But other than that, yeah, the Templar has like the domination really when it comes to burst heals, and that was one of the ones you don't see very often, the clappy hands. Yeah, so let's just have a quick overview of like of what basically, and I go back as well, just going back as well to what I talked about in the last healer talk about always keeping your hots down so you heal over times. As far as obviously the standard heals over times go, we've still got healing springs, we've still got combat prairies, but yeah, burst heal, but like we want to keep it that thing up at all times. And we've still got our orbs, and that's the same for any class. It doesn't matter what you're playing. You'll also probably find regeneration all appear pretty heavily. I can't cast it right now because I'm in combat and I don't have the skill on my bar, but yeah, there you go. Thank you, Benix. So those aren't class specific. Those are very important heals nonetheless. So, and you might ask yourself, well, in which case, if those are some of the most important heals, why do we need different classes of healers? Well, I'll try my best to explain why. Situational healing is very important, especially in trials and dungeons. It might be that you're in a trial that requires, like VSS, it's a good example for the burst heals for somebody in the ice portals, where the Templar really does excel with just a couple of breath of lives and it's done, game done, and you just go straight back to going about your business. It's not always the case. Sometimes you might have a slightly more difficult time, so you might have to still put your hots down, etc. But yeah, effectively, that's how a Templar can be overpowered, as it were, in a certain situation, as to compare to other healers. Regards to the Templar, though, what do they bring that's very different compared to others? Well, you've got a couple of factors, and it all obviously comes down to you can look at the passives. I'm not going to go deep into the passives because like there are a lot of different things that they have passively, a lot of things they used to have passively they no longer have, as well, which caused like people like Delta to quit the game for a short period. But like some of the skills that they have, things like Purifying Ritual. I think it's extended. Is it called extended? The option you pretty much want to choose. As I say, I've not been on my healer. It's hard to remember what the names of the skills are. You can choose Ritual of Retribution if you wanted to, but I prefer the other one, Extended Ritual, because it does a lot more. It purifies a lot more. But the most important thing it does, it's like a purge, but very cheap. It's not as effective as purge, so let's not think that it's going to replace it. But you've got that one synergy that anybody in the team can use, and therefore you can just purify yourself of a particular effect, a status effect that's put on. So it's a really useful skill, and it's something that you don't tend to see in a lot of the other healer classes. I can't even think of one that's in another. If somebody else can intervene.
There's
there's one on the Necro, I think.
Yeah.
The Necro's got this own purge, but like, yeah, as far as like the Warden goes, there's nothing really class specific for that, and so it's a really big important skill, and you see the size of it as well. It's huge. So it's healing. So we've got an extra hot. It's a purge. It's got so much, use. Really, it's so flexible, and it's one of the things that sets the Templar into its class, really, because the size of it is just absolutely massive, and so that's a really important skill, and you want to try and keep that up at all times in most situations. I can't think of too many where it wouldn't be useful, because it always is. Another skill as well that the Templar has is shards. Awesome, right on cue. And it's although it does the same thing effectively as your orbs, what the shards give you is a little bit of extra damage, and that's always nice, especially if you're in a dungeon or a trial situation where you think, they need a little bit of help, the DPS, they need that extra bit of push and extra bit of damage, then it offers that. But it also offers a very specific role for the tank. As if you've got a main tank that just, it doesn't want to have to be chasing an orb around when they need resources very specifically, that shard can land straight at their feet. They don't have to move anywhere, no chasing, and it stays down for a fair amount of time, so they can pick to activate it, as long as you don't throw another shard, of course. They can pick to activate it, at their leisure. and it's
Can,
so
can we ask questions while you're doing this?
absolutely,
Or-
yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. If
How
you got
close?
it,
How close do those shards have to be? Because I have a problem throwing them and getting them right in front of the tank.
okay,
Yeah,
I'll get
but
them,
that-
getting them close. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can see how far Benix is away. You can be a fair distance away, and as far as the activation of the shard, I think as long as you're within that circle, as soon as you're outside the circle, oh no, actually, I can still activate it even here. So yeah, it doesn't have to be very close at all. I mean,
You don't have to be right up on it. No, a lot of times when I'm tanking, yeah, it won't even be like really that close to me, but I'll still get the synergy.
so yeah, you
Can it
don't,
be behind the tank, or does
Yes.
it have to be in front?
no,
Yes,
it can be behind. See, I can still activate it
Okay.
here, the one behind me, and it's way behind me. So it doesn't have to be right on them. It's got a nice big circle on it, so you know, anywhere within that circle, and the tank's going to be, or anybody else is going to be able to activate it. But it's a really good one to have out there. But that was a good question. But there is another use for the shard as well, that again also sets the Templar apart. And I'm not going to talk about too much deep into sets and stuff, but I will talk obviously an overview of sets and what's pretty useful. But the Ola Rime proc, which I think most people run it, especially in trials. The shard is such a good one, because when you've seen your Ola Rime circle disappear, if you want to be precise about where you want to put it, so you want to get it on the DPS, you can throw your shard down and it will proc your Ola Rime. And it'll put that circle down, and you can land it right in the core of the DPS. I mean, you don't have to keep your shard there. You can throw your shard back then to the tank if you wanted to, but like just for positioning purposes, it's just it's exquisite, because it's like it's a great skill to put down to get that procced. Other things that the Templar's obviously got, you've got the ultimate, but you won't see it used very often. But it has a place in PvP, so I'm not going to disregard it. It definitely has a place in PvP. Certainly has a place in Battlegrounds. But as I say, for PvE content, it's not as popular by any stretch of the imagination. So Reaper on request. Thank you very much for that. But it's cool looking as well. But of their burst heals, I've always talked about Breath of Life. The other one is what's it called? It's the Clappy Hands one. I can't think what it's called. I call it Clappy Hands.
Healing Ritual.
Yeah, Healing Ritual. That's the
Ritual,
one, yeah.
Ritual
Yeah.
Rebirth, yeah.
Ritual Rebirth as well. That's a good one, yeah. And it's got the same sort of effect as Breath of Life, but you can see the circle on it. It's huge. It's a huge circle. So if you want burst heals within a group situation rather than just like and you're all standing close, especially if you're in something like again I'll use VSS as an example. If you're standing all close on that fire dragon and you want to make sure you got nice big burst heals out, it's a great place to use it. If you've got space for it on your bar, that's the one I'd have over anything else, because it's going to heal pretty much everybody with the exception of the off tank. So it's a good heal, and it shouldn't be underestimated at all. I mean, I wouldn't overuse it. There are definitely places, and goes for most of these skills. Definitely places for it, but yeah, it's a great skill to have. Another really good one for that puts Templars in a league of their own a little bit as well is your rune focus, your channeled focus. It's underused by healers, and I don't understand why it's underused by healers, because yeah, you unfortunately can't see it, but yeah, it's the rune that puts it on the floor that it gives you your major resolve, and so it's going to put your spell and physical resistance up by about 6k, and you can stand in it, and it's also going to help you with your recovery. It's going to give you magic back at the wazoo. Great skill to have, and it's great to have in your arsenal, especially if you know that you're going to be static for a lot of the fight, and you know that there's a chance that you could be put in danger by anything that happens, or if you're going to be short on resources because you're having to overheal a lot. Then it is honestly it's a game changer to have it out there and to keep it up. With a new patch coming as well, when you're going to have extra health, those extra resistances coming from that focus It's going to make you as strong as a tank, and so why wouldn't you want it? Because a dead healer's no use to anybody, and yeah, so you almost don't have to look after yourself because it's done for you. The only reason you might want to run that kind of thing is obviously if somebody else is running, like a Warden's running this, because it does the same thing as far as your buffs go. Are there any questions or anything I've said so far on Templar healers? Or any skills in particular?
Did you mention Nova?
Oh, Nova! Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a really good one as well. Yeah, I didn't. Thank you very much. That was a good point. So as far as ultimates go, yeah, the Nova, you won't see it used an awful lot by healers again, because I think most of them are running Warhorn or Barrier because like that's what everywhere says. But Nova is absolutely vital in certain trials. It really is vital. I can't express its value in Vet Sanctum enough. I can't express it. You can't even get through, I don't think, Vhoff, the final boss, without it. You certainly wouldn't be able to get through hard mode without it, because it's so core to everything it does. It basically, what it's doing is it's putting a maim on anything that's in that Nova. So, for instance, the main bosses, or if you're taking AOE damage, like from the trolls and stuff like that, it puts that maim down. And it's mitigation, so it reduces the damage that everybody's taking from it, and so it's so important to keep up and keep down. So you'll see that people ask it, to get changed. Has anybody got running Nova? And usually, I'd say 9 times out of 10, the Templar healer is the person that's going to have their hand in the hair, because yeah, with all these groups now running loads of Necros and Sorks and stuff, yeah, the Templar healer's the saviour and the one that keeps everybody alive through all the crap, and as well as being asked to buff up, etc. But I'll get into that little rant afterwards.
So,
yeah.
so where is Nova? I'm not finding it.
It's the Dawn's Wrath. Oh.
It's Dawn's Wrath Ultimate. Yeah.
Oh, I have Solar Prison. I need to change it.
No, a prison or disturbance. It doesn't matter either way. You're still going to get the effect. Especially the one that disturbance, I believe, keeps the effect on them when they've moved out of the area. But of course, if it's on a boss that's not moving, then like off, it's still going to have the same effect. So it's it wouldn't make any difference which morph it was. It just starts as Nova. That's all.
Oh, I see.
Okay, but yeah, it's I say good ability. Not only that, it's another synergy as well. It's another synergy for your tank or your healers to pop, and that's one thing I think that gets lost on sometimes. If you look in your Undaunted Metal, I think it's Undaunted passives. Whenever you hit a synergy, you're getting resources back. That's everybody. That's not just tanks. That's not just from shards or orbs. That's every synergy that you hit. You're going to get some resources back, and so it's another synergy out there, as well as doing damage. It's also helping sustain. So yeah, a good ability. Thanks for that, Benix. I appreciate that. Is there any other questions or anything else that I've possibly missed about the Templars? As I say, without going really deep into their passives and stuff. I think I covered most things.
The one thing that you can point out about Templars is they're also valuable when it comes to rezzing, because
yeah.
Increases the resurrection speed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, whilst healers should not be rezzing at all, it's a last resort. It is a good point that they get back resources to the people.
It's a good thing if you're a Templar healer healing the main tank on a boss like Asylum's included.
Right, yeah, and if there's a moment where it's a really oh crap moment and you're the only person on hand, then yeah, get that res as a Templar healer. But as I say, in the main, your DPS should be doing the job. But as I say, for oh crap moments, then it's a big bonus for the Templar, and it's probably going to get even stronger as well, considering the passives that are coming in this next CPs. If you've got that on your active bar or something, so yeah, it's a plus. It's definitely a plus. Anything else? No, I think we're good there. Okay, let me talk about the Wardens for a second. I know that there's not many Wardens in here, but because I'm on a Warden, I feel like I have to. and I kind of want to. And why the Wardens and the Templars mix well, of course, are all the synergies and hots that a Warden sends out that a Templar just doesn't. So we've got and some more sustain as well. So you might have your shards, but a Warden has their mushrooms. Also helps with the sustain and the recovery. There are a couple of things that are almost vital for when you've got a Warden coming into your group to run. For one, they're going to give you your minor toughness, obviously, but that's passively. But one of the skills you're going to need to run is fetch flies. It's this one here. It's something that's going to increase the damage. I'll give you extra numbers.
Minor vulnerability, I believe.
Yeah, it's minor vulnerability. 8%. I think it is 8%, isn't it? Oh no, it's 5%. My bad, sorry. So it's yeah, you get an extra 5% damage taken from all sources whilst that's up there. Yeah, so those fetcher flies on there are going to increase. Everybody that touches it is getting an extra 5% damage. So that's 5% overall. So you can imagine if you've got, let's say for instance, you've got really great DPS. You've got 8 DPS that are hitting in there, and they're all hitting 100k DPS. They're all of a sudden, you're talking about they're hitting 105, K. That's a big increase. You're talking 840k there as opposed to just 800k. That's 40k extra DPS per second you're adding just for that simple move. I mean, it's pretty huge, and it's pretty important, and it obviously on top of everything else, it adds. It all stacks up and adds up with a lot of other things we'll talk about in a little bit as well. And of course I mean, I'm not a huge fan of buff healers, but the value of them in a fully comped group is you can't argue with. You just can't, because it's just the quicker the fight's over, the less healing you have to do, and of course the less chance of anything going wrong as well. So that's pretty nice to have all that extra damage going on pretty much for free. Another skill that you'll probably find and asked to use is the expansive cloak. It's this one here. That's what I talked about before. It's where I hit everybody. It doesn't last as long as a lot of other buffs, if I'm not mistaken. It's still it's 20 seconds. Oh, it does. Sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm giving bomb information here. So 20 seconds. It's going on for, and you're all going to get that major resolve. And so your physical and spell resistances are up by 6k. That's that one where if a Warden's running it, you don't need to run your channel focus as long as you've got a Warden in your group. That's within range, of course, as well. But it's quite a big range. And that really helps out the DPS like dramatically, as well as helping yourself out as well. And so it's good. It's a good idea to keep an eye on. I don't know if anybody else runs their buffs and self buffs on their bar. But it is a good idea to keep your buffs and your targets buffs on your bar as well, just so you can see what you're doing and what buffs you have active, etc. Because I don't know why that's not coming up on my bar though.
What do the mushrooms do?
The mushrooms, as well as being a heal, they actually give you minor intellect, minor endurance. So it's your stamina recovery and your magicka recovery by 20% increase for 20 seconds. So help with the sustain out. Yeah, so
that's kind of what I use as my burst heal when I'm healing onward.
Yeah, it's a good.
That doesn't stack with like pots then, right?
No.
So it gives the same. Okay.
It gives exactly.
So basically,
the same.
It's mainly used as a heal then.
Yeah,
sounds like right. Okay.
Warden mushrooms are basically just restoring aura.
Yeah.
With a heal instead of a magical steel.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is like not everybody's going to be running their pots on cooldowns and stuff like that. So it still offers an extra bit of resource recovery.
Helps with uptimes, yeah.
Yeah, and keeps the 100% uptime going for that at all times. It also, if you're in a 4-man group, you can run a different potion. You could start think about changing potions, or even if you're in a 4-man group running just a vet dungeon that's just not a vet DLC or something like I use trash pots and stuff like that as well. So
Yeah.
and I won't always
Yeah.
cast. I won't always use my pots, especially if you've got like a warden in there. So just it helps you out there as well. So there's lots of different things.
Yeah, I guess if you're running other pots too, like heroism or something like that,
exactly.
where you're not going to get inflict. Alright, makes sense.
Okay, so another couple of skills from the warden that we're going to bring to the table. We've got our pollen. This is I got the budding seeds one. There is corrupting pollen as well. I think is the other one. I like the one where the ally can use the synergy, and I can also, not only that, if I need a burst heal, I can cast it immediately and get the burst heal from it, and throw it out once again straight after. There is a corrupting one that gives a little bit more of a heal over time, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it's another synergy that's out there for the group. It's a synergy that's out there for tanks as well who are running Alkosh, or if they're running other sets, that they're required to hit synergies like doing a Bastion, etc. So all these synergies that we can get out there, the more the merrier. All helping with sustain as well. And so it's a good skill. It's a good skill to have. It's not one I always have on my bar, despite the fact that if you see a warden healer, you'll see it a lot. So it's not a must-have, because sometimes I'll actually switch it out for what we call Lotus Blossom. This is a lesser used skill by the wardens. It's underused in my opinion. But if you're running something that requires light attacks, let's say if you're running MK Zens, it's not very often used on a warden. But if you are, you're going to be doing a lot of light attacking, and so all the time you're light attacking, you're healing, because it gives you every light attack, it restores health. Every heavy attack, it also restores health. So it obviously there's more for. I think it's 4,300. I just said for heavy, and 1,400 for light. All the time that's active, and it's active for quite a long time. It's about 20 seconds, and so it's nice. As well as having your major prophecy on it as well, so you spell crit, which is something else I want to talk about very briefly as well. That a lot of healers don't think about when they're putting their builds together. They just use a cookie cutter build, and they're not sure why or how it works, but it just works for them. But if you want to use your own kind of builds, there are certain things you should be thinking about. Okay, so as well as Lotus Blossom, the big burst heal is this one. You saw me do it. It's a crazy looking heal. It pulls you over to the person that you want to heal, but it's huge. It's like a really, really huge heal. I mean, it's like 9.3k. Instantly. You're going to get 10 ultimate as well. But not only that, is if you're thinking about, if you're fully buffed up, and you've just hit a pot and stuff, or if you've got your Betty out as well, I mean, all of a sudden that heal becomes about 10k, and it's going to crit for about 20k, and you just zoom straight in. So, or if you're running something like the extra 16% from the Black Rose Resto, again, that's going to stack on top of it, and you can probably get this burst heal. I'd say on the right character, Khajiit or something like that, you can get it up to about 30k critting at. I mean, which you can pretty much say if a tank goes into a portal, an ice portal accidentally, and you've got all those things in play, you can heal him within a few seconds, and get him out of trouble. I mean, it's a huge heal. But the same can be said about Breath of Life, but just Breath of Life just doesn't look as cool. You can't argue that, really, right? It does just look cool. I mean, the fact that you can just drag yourself towards the target, plus the fact once you're there at the target as well, it's got quite a nice range, 28 meters. So it's a fair stack away. Let's see how far away I can go. Yeah, I'm pretty far. It's not the longest heal in the game. The longest heal in the game still maintains its place, and that's there you go. That's as far as you can go, and that's obviously the DK holds that record for the Obsidian Shard, which has an effectively I think a 56 meter range on it to target. But yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But again, that's very situational if you're going to use that. Um, but yeah, so it's a really good, as I say, really good burst heal. It's nice to have it in your arsenal. I don't always run it because like it can get you into trouble if you're pulling this and you're pulling yourself through a bunch of AoEs as well, or pulling yourself into trouble. You can target the wrong person accidentally. I'd pretty much only use it to do ice portals. But yeah, but it's such a cool skill. And not only that, if you want to cheese things in PvP, it can be used. I'm not going to go into exploits and stuff, but it can be used to get you in some very, very nifty places. Let's say if you've got a friend in a keep, yeah, it can get you into a keep that's perhaps got the door shut. I didn't tell you that.
What?
But if you see a friend on a wall of a keep, yeah, that's not yours, just use it. Boom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so yeah.
Kind of like the same way you would use empowering grip.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Drag yourself in. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's great skill to have though, for lots of different reasons. Plus the fact if you want to get away from a Zerg and stuff like that, they're chasing you. You've got friends in front of you. You can keep casting that and get to the front of your Zerg and leave all your friends behind to get killed. But like it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice skill to have. Other than that, the Wardens, I think pretty much I covered most of the things I think on the Warden there. There were a couple of
Did you
other.
cover the ult?
Oh no, I didn't know the Enchanted Forest and the Leeching Vines. I didn't. You're right. So Leeching Vines is another skill as well, which I probably should talk about. So this is a nice little bursty heal kind of thing as well. Or sorry, not bursty, hot. It's you can put it on there. It's got minor lifesteal on it. It's great if you want to put it on a tank. You can also use this on somebody in the portals to help you get those heals done and get through. But yeah, I like it personally, just trying to get it onto a tank if possible. It can help them out a little bit, because especially if you've got a tank that's not quite in the group and not always getting the heals, not always getting the life steals, etc. It's also good for a tank to use and themselves, so it's a good skill to have. But yeah, the ultimate as well. Yeah, the as I say, outside of your barriers and your war horns, which they'll still probably use, you do have what I call trees, the Enchanted Forest, which is the one I use because it generates more ultimate, so you can pretty much be casting it on cooldown if you've got some good ult generation going on. And it's a nice burst heal. It's not as effective as it used to be, but it is cheap still, and because it is a cheap heal and a cheap burst heal and does a whole group, it can still be used and it still has its place. It used to be used a lot because it would proc Master Architect, and it would proc it very quickly, and you could keep the uptime of it going crazy amounts. So it's not something that's as used as I say right now. I mean, even like the bear used to be used for that purpose as well. I wouldn't use the bear either, unless you really wanted to keep the bear on your front bar, which again I'll talk about in a little bit, to keep damage up, etc., because of having an extra animal companion on there. Okay, so now I've covered both. As I say, I don't want to go. This is only intermediate still, so I'm not going to go deep into passives, and I would probably focus on one particular class healer anyway if I was going to do that. I want to talk about some of the things that healers don't necessarily think about that really are important to think about, and that's you'll hear DPS talk about how they buff up. You'll hear them having their minor force, trying to keep their trap down, rearming trap, and to keep their minor force up. You'll hear them talking, or channel acceleration, talking about obviously anything they can get from the spell buffs. But you don't hear healers talking about it as often, but it's still important. And I mean, just as an example of how important it is, my healing springs right now is at 1,000. Okay, 1,000 per tick. Okay, which by the looks of it was hitting, and I think I saw a 1,700 go up then, crit. Okay, I'm one tick. Now that sounds like not very much. Obviously it equates to around about 10k once all said and done. But if I just do one simple thing of just casting my Blue Betty, all of a sudden my healing springs is now at over 1200 a tick. That's a that's a 20% increase to what I'm doing, and it's all because the Blue Betty is giving me
Spell sorcery.
yeah, well, it's giving me major brutality and sorcery, which is extra damage, 20%. It's not just extra damage. We read that far too wrong. It's not just spell damage; it's spell power, and so therefore it's going to be an increase of 20% on my heals. So really, really vital that we look at what buffs we're running, and that plays a factor. If I'm not running my Betty, I'll be running spell power pots. If I am running it, I'm going to be running heroism pots, because I want to get obviously as many ultimates as I can get going on, and so the same thing with the Templar. You're going to want to look at the abilities, and the same thing with any class really. You're going to want to look at what abilities, what potions you're running, and you want to make sure that you're getting as many buffs as possible. Again, Inner Light, that's another one that isn't spoken about a lot. Thank you very much. That was a good reminder there from Reaper. Inner Light is a good one to have on your bar if you really want that extra crit and those crit heals. It's even more important if you're a Khajiit healer. I mean, which is and removing negative effects. Yep. It's really important if you're a Khajiit healer and you want that crit, that you choose the right Munda Stone as well. It's so easy to turn around and say, I'm going to choose the ritual. I mean, most healers are going to turn around and say, I'm going to take the ritual because it's the easy one to choose. And why wouldn't you? Because like it's glaringly obvious at your face. I mean, apart from the fact I've got the Lord on right now, but that's because I was healing Vass. But like,
it has a tendency to overheal.
It can, but it also it shouldn't be misplaced as to how important the heals are. Though sometimes when we call for big heals and we don't get them, it's because like we've got 2 buff healers in there that perhaps aren't running enough potency on their strongest heals, and so that balance is kind of vital. So just have a look at what you're doing when it comes down to buffs. Make sure that you are running things like your Betty, or if you are running your spell power pots. There are various other ways. You could even just turn around and have it like, I'm pretty confident if Empower, if your heals are based off your light attack, I can't clarify this completely, and it would be interesting to see if somebody can actually clarify this for me. If you're running Solar Barrage on a Templar healer, if you hit it and then you start light attacking with the Sigil line, are your heals bigger? Can you tell me that, Bennett? I bet you don't have it Solar Barrage, do you?
I don't. I can't get it built up. Hold on, I can go work on a dummy for a minute.
Wait, you're trying to get what? Empower?
Yeah, I want to see if you've got Empower.
If you have a Mage's Guild ability, just pop Inner Light for like a quick second.
Yeah,
because when you cast a Mage's Guild ability, you get Empower.
That makes sense now. I've got to wait for the fighting thing to wear off.
I can't do it because I don't have the Physics skill line on mine yet.
But it'd be interesting.
Okay, so you want me to test it with a Breath of Life or something?
No, not with Breath of Life. With your light attack, the Mend Wounds.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, I'll just pop you in a light and have a look at your tooltip bar and see if your Mend Wounds actually increases the tooltip. The tooltip will tell you if it increases or not.
Okay, let me see what it is first. Light attacks heal for 2136. Okay, let me go to the Mage's Guild. Slot that. Boom.
You have to check back quick.
I'm going. Nope, same.
Is it the same? That surprised me because I'd have thought the light attacks would have done more. But anyway, that was a nice little theory there to test. Let's have a look at. But it's things like that though that it's important to test as well and see these things. And I can't express the importance of actually coming to a dummy and actually working on a dummy. I know it sounds crazy, but you're going to be able to keep your light attacks and buffs up and stuff like that. Which moves me on to the next thing. One thing that we don't do as healers very often, or we don't do at all, as far as I can see from certain healers, but we should be doing, and that's light weaving. We should still be light attacking all our abilities in. just like a DPS would. Now, we can get away with not doing it all the time, and we can, because we heavy attack weaving, and then sometimes there to get our resources back. But the light attack is going to do so many different things. It's going to proc our enchants. It's going to help generate ultimate. It's doing an extra little bit of damage, and like I said, it doesn't hurt us to actually have a bit of DPS in there as well, to help the DPS out. Sometimes the DPS really need it because they're useless. Sorry, did I just say that? Sorry.
Yikes.
No. Seriously though, because sometimes you do end up in a situation where, you know, maybe that extra little push can help, and we can be the difference makers. And honestly, you'd be surprised how often we are the difference makers. Oh, somebody just left Daggerfall walls. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Oh, sorry, did you... I thought they just popped in the chat or something. Okay. That was badly timed. But yes, so make sure you're practicing some light attack weaving in there. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, just something quite simple, but light attacks and heavy attack weaving in there is going to really help to increase your DPS, your effectiveness, but also to get more ultimates, and more ultimates as far as, you know, the DPS are concerned means more war horns, more barriers. You know, whether we need extra defenses or whether we need extra DPS or extra sustain, it's going to help with all those things. And so I can't stress the importance enough of light weaving abilities into there. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Go. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that like people talk about having like strict rotations as a healer, and like, you know, you go this, and that. But I would classify myself, I guess, I might be meaning amateur healer, but I'm what I consider to be a reactive healer. So like I find it harder to do that kind of stuff because I'm using my skills sort of based on what I'm seeing. So like, you know, if I need to burst heal because somebody's dipped really low, or if I need to put on, you know, I'm keeping my hots down and stuff, but like if I need rapid regen on the tank or something, you know, but I find it harder to weave because I'm like reacting as opposed to going through a strict rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, and this is why I say this is why I love healing probably more than I love DPSing, and I'm sure why tanks love tanking, because the situations change very quickly, and a DPS job will not change. They might change what they're focusing on, but their essential rotations won't change at all, and the way they do it, we have to be a lot more dynamic as support classes. We have to, like you say, react to a situation. It might be something that, you know, if you're sitting in a position where the DPS are like a well-oiled machine, they know what they're doing, they know how to get out of it. Quite often, more often than not, you're going to have one or two stray DPS in any group that's going to stray, and they're going to stand in red stuff. And as frustrated as we get by that, it's actually what I thrive on. It's something I'm thinking, well, I enjoy that challenge, so I prefer that, you know, sometimes a DPS will mess up or a tank might mess up, because it means it challenges me, and that's not a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're in a well-oiled machine, I've definitely got a rotation that I go around. I'm gonna keep up, and I'm gonna get it going on, and I make sure I keep everything up by that way. Now, that's literally me going through a rotation of heals that I know that I use on this Warden. Everything else I do on top of that is going to be reactive. I've got I can take things out very quickly, and it's thinking on the fly. If I see something happen, then I'm going to stop my rotation immediately and go deal with it. But I am definitely going to have a rotation of putting down. I hit down my healing springs. I hit down my combat prayer to make sure everybody's got the extra damage buff and the extra shields. I make sure I keep I usually have this up at all times anyway, so my Betty will stay up, or whatever it is I've got down, my rune focus, etc. is up at all times, just like you would a trap. And I also then throw out an orb. And after that, I start laying down extra bits, like my buffs, my pollens and stuff like that, and keep it going. And I'll keep going through a rotation until I see something that I need to react to. But far too often I see this from healers. I'll see them go, and I'll see this in dungeons a lot. They'll do a heavy attack, they'll put the healing springs down, They see nothing that they need to react to, and they'll just stand there. They'll just stand and wait. They might throw occasionally a mutagen, but they won't do anything else. And I'm thinking, whoa. I mean, there's reactive, and then there's just sloppy and lazy. You could be doing, like, even if you're doing a heavy attack, you're doing something. But so many times they'll just stand there, and I'm thinking, well, do something. But they're like, but yeah, I'm just the healer. I'm just here to heal. But you're not really. You're there as a group support. You're there to do a lot more than just heal. You can do so much more. And plus the fact, if you're going through these rotations, if you're keeping your healing springs in position, you're keeping your orbs down, you know, you're keeping your pollens or your purifying rituals down. But try to keep it. Yeah, exactly. And that's very important. It is important to keep them out. If you're going through all those things, the chances of you needing to react to something are greatly reduced, because there's a lot of heals down already that are going to cover anything that goes wrong. But that said, I don't see why there isn't a place for reactive healing as well. I think it's important that if you've got two healers in a group, that if one of them is like yourself, like you are going to react to something, rather than proact on something, then it's important that the other healer probably just keep their stuff going on. And I would turn around and argue. I'd argue that the pure healer is what I would consider, which I'll talk about in a second. The pure healer is the one that reacts. The one that's keeping everything else going on is your buff or sustain healer, because you're going to have big heals to react with. Sorry.
As an aside to that, real quick, do you run Harness Magica much on your healer?
Yes. Yeah, okay. I do, and it's and when I say I run it a lot, I keep it on my bar. If I'm in a group like that I'm super confident with, then I'll take it off. But most of the time I'm in the progs, in which case I'm going to be running it, because yeah. But I need to know that if I have to go and do something, I know that's going to cost me no crap moment, then yeah, I'll keep it on. Sorry, carry on. I presume you had somewhere you were leading with that.
Well, okay, no, not really that specific question, but I was going to paint a scenario. So, like, when I was in Sammy's VSS the other night, I was healing, and the tank would get marked for death, right? So, but I'm healing the group, so I then have to turn around. I'm like, okay, what things can I put? And this is on my Warden, but like, what things can I give to the tank to like have him ready to go when the breath comes while he's marked for death? So that's what I mean when I'm talking about being reactive. So it's not like all of my stuff's being layered on the DPS while I'm sending my synergies over to him. But then I'm going to turn and I'm going to actually like hard focus him with like my mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I'm talking about.
That's more proactive than reactive. You know that, right? What you just said, because everything you said was in preparation. You knowing that something's going to happen, and therefore you're ready for it. So you're not reacting to a situation. You're being proactive about it and thinking, I know a situation is going to arise. But that actually comes from knowledge of tanking as well, that a lot of healers won't have, and that's where you need to use that knowledge to set yourself apart, because you know when something's coming, you know when a mechanic's coming, you know exactly what it feels like because you've been on the other end of it, and you know exactly what that tank needs. And that's another reason why I say to healers, make yourself a tank, make yourself a DPS, even if you don't have one, and go and try that, because it's going to give you more knowledge to go out there and say, I know the other side of the stick and what they need, because let's face it, you will. It's like any job. You'll see the bosses come down and they'll do like a menial job for a day or two, because they need to understand what it is. That's what makes a good boss. That's what makes a good healer as well. It's understanding and knowledge of what everybody needs and wants.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I get what you're saying there. But yeah, in that situation, especially if you've got a healer down, another healer down, you know the next most important thing is to keep the tank up. You can lose DPS in a fight, you cannot lose a tank. So I would stop everything else and heal the tank in that situation. Yeah. Any other questions about that, or around that kind of thing? We're talking about heals and stuff. I just want to touch on a couple of sets as well that we all know the basic sets, I'm sure, but I just want to talk about a couple of sets that perhaps aren't mentioned a lot. Oh, yes, sorry.
I'm okay.
Okay. Okay, so so when it comes to sets, obviously, there are general. We all know about Sanctuary, and the Spell Power Cures, the Ola remakes. I'm sure about this. Obviously, if you don't, then by all means you can ask questions about those sets.
This is when I can actually use my notebook.
I can put all this. I'll probably try and do it as well. I'll try and get all this in the healers channel as well. I'll write up my notes and make sure it goes out there, because there's a whole bunch of sets that we don't think about, and there's way too many. If I went to go through, I mean, I got literally listed in front of me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
I've written down like 13 sets within like a day.
Yeah, I got 33. I got 33 sets written in front of me that are all available and unusable, and they've all got their place. I mean, I
A lot
can
of them are
turn
situational too.
exactly right. Yeah, I mean, we talk about like sets like Curse Eater. These are the sort of notable sets that I sort of want to talk about as well, that healers don't always have in their arsenal, but I can't express enough how good it is to have Curse Eater in your set build up. Even if you just go to resto stuff and like and some resto stuff, I'll say is important because like combat prayer is the thing that's going to set it off, so it has to be resto stuff.
And where does it come from?
It comes from PvP. You're going to get it from Cropsford. It's incredibly expensive to try and find the resto staff. It can cost you up to 400k. But I will say I've found a little knack of getting it. And if you're on a lowbie character that does the daily quests in Cropsford, you've got a really high chance of getting a resto staff. It seems I've got like a few of them now. So it's kind of but it's going to be a lowbie, but it's going to go in your sticker book. You could reconstruct it. The rings and stuff are dirt cheap. You can pick them up for 1k, 2k from any trader. And the same with the jewelry, because like a lot of people spend a lot of money trying to get the resto stuff, or a lot of AP, should I say, and therefore they get lots of rings and necklaces. It's basically it's a purge. It's a free purge, where we know that purge costs an awful lot of magicka. You're going to be able to purge. You're going to be able to purge with combat prayer, which is kind of nice. it's kind of cheap because like anybody that's got anything wrong on them or effects on them, your combat prayer is going to immediately remove it. There is a cooldown on it. That's the only danger with it. But like when it comes to like something like, let's say, VHOF, which is a place I would use it, and you've got the Shulks coming out, and we've got that little poison squelch that comes out in VHOF at the first fight. Combat prayer, he's going to get rid of it and I'm going to purge everybody, and everybody that hits. So it's really nice. And combat prayer is actually longer. You can actually pretty much hit, if your tanks get it, it's going to reach them. That's probably the most important factor of it. Whereas your purge isn't. It's not going to reach out. You'll have to go a bit closer to them. But so Curse Eater, it's a situational set. It's almost vital to have somebody running it in Black Rose Prison during the one fight, unless you're going to have somebody running Purge, but again that's pretty expensive. But Curse Eater can get you out of that particular round with the netches pretty nicely. Stendar does the similar sort of thing, and that's a cheaper set to get, but it's not as effective as Curse Eater. That comes from... Oh, no worries, Benix. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks, buddy. Stendar comes from East March, but you can go and check that one out if you want to have a play about with a set that does something similar to it. As I say, I can talk about buff sets or till the cows come home, like Roaring Opportunities, Master Architect, Zens, all those things. But I want to touch on another two sets. I've already spoke about Curse Eater being a great set for cleansing and stuff. I want to talk about one that's not widely spoken of, and it's one that's easy to get. Most people probably have it in their collections already, and it's very similar to. It's got the same sort of effect as Holofang. It's got, but it's procced in a different way, and that's Lamia's Song. It's from Arx Corinium, and if you've got an ultimate like trees, oh there we go, perfect. If you've got something like trees or something like that, or anything that's you've got an ultimate that you can constantly cast or something like that, you're going to give all your group members resources back just from casting your ultimate, and it stacks up pretty nicely as well. And it's if you, as I say, if you've got an ultimate generation going on, like if you're running minor heroes and pots and stuff like that, it does an awful lot of work. Lamia's Song, and it'll keep it going nice. It's great for your tanks, great for sustain, but it's a really low level, easy set to get, and it's one worth playing about with. Don't dismiss it. It's not top tier. I'm not going to go out there and say it's going to be the greatest thing you ever had, but it should never ever be dismissed. And this is what I'm saying about sets and how you build your healers. That's one of the ones I would talk about. If you're looking for big heals and you want to couple something with like RO with a heavy attack, don't overlook Draug's Rest. I think that comes from Falkreath, and
Wait,
it's Draug's Rest. It's from, I'm pretty sure it's from Falkreath Hold.
Draug's Rest.
Yeah, and it's basically it's got a spawn off a heavy attack, and so it really plays in nicely if you're running something like Infallible Ether, or if you're running Roaring Opportunist. That heavy attack is going to basically proc both, and you're going to get 2 procs for just doing 1 heavy attack. And so these are the sort of things I want all our healers to go away and start thinking about and looking at, not necessarily to experiment and say, oh, these are the best sets in the game, but these are examples of ways we can play that are different and alternative, and the way we can we can look at a group and say, this group's struggling with sustain really bad. I can wear Holofang and Lamia, and all of a sudden their sustain's going to go through the roof. This group's struggling for a bit of damage, and they also need some heals as well at the same time. And I'm struggling for Magicka, so heavy attack builds. Why not look at Draug's Rest? Why not look at Roaring Opportunist? You're going to get those 2 things in combination working very nicely together. Another one that people don't think about, if you really want big heals, it's a horrible saying, Brandy hates it if I say big heals, and it's a set that is ridiculously easy to get, and you would think, wait a second, that's a DPS set, and that's Mother's Sorrow. For crit heals, and I talk about the Khajiits all the time as well, because it's my big thing right now. But if you're on a Khajiit and you want massive heals, and you're running the Thief, not the Thief, sorry, the Shadow, which it does say damage, but honestly, I've tested it. It also increases your heals. You could start talking of upwards of like 30-40k heals in your burst heals. I mean, which literally could just like heal a tank from dead to alive. And so, I mean, you're not always going to need those kind of ridiculous heals, but think about your HOTS. Your healing springs all of a sudden become huge. All you need to do is keep your healing springs down, and you've got the group covered, and you can just, like Bennett's talking about there, situationally, you can react to anything pretty quickly and pretty sharply. It's not going to be something that's meta or anything like that. As I said, I've never been one that's a meta head, but it is going to be worthwhile having to think and build it when you build your healers up, having a look at things like that. And the last one I'll talk about as well, for talking about like pure healers, is Healer's Habit. Minor Mending shouldn't be snubbed. There are various ways to get it, but Healer's Habit just lands it right in your lap. It gives you an extra 5% heals. I think it's extra 5%. On top of everything else that you're putting on, and that's the raw heal as well, so not just the crit. That comes from Dragonstar Arena. Again, it's for sale in most guild traders, because most people who run that are after like the Master's Bow or something. They don't want any of the gear, and they just put up in the guild traders for like 1 or 2k a piece. It's dead easy to get. You don't even have to run the content. But yeah, just have a look at some different sets. I'd love people to come to me and say, hey, have you looked at this set, Rittings? Have you seen this set? Have you seen this? Because would this be any good? Could I use this? I'm never ever going. You could come to me and turn around and say, I'm going to run, I don't know, Black Rose on a healer, and I'm sure I could find a use for it. But like, if ever you find something like that and you say, hey, I want a different build. I want to be, alternate. Not necessarily look at the big sets. Just come to me and ask me, and I'll always have an ear for anybody that's got something really interesting to say, or to try. But yeah, but whenever you, as I say, looking at the skills, looking at things, try and think theoretically what could be effective for definite. And Brandy just says that. Shout out to Daisy Bombs and Winter's Respite. Yeah, don't knock Winter's Respite. People do. It's massive as a heal. If you're learning, Olo and Jawballs is really good as well. Jawballs is a great set for everything. Jawballs covers literally every single base. It just increases your barriers, increases your war horns. There's not much it doesn't increase. The time of and duration. It's pretty OP. I can't even tell you how long it took me to get a lightning staff, but yeah. But don't overlook, as I said, easy to get sets. Winters is a really, really nice set. It's such a big heal. And if you're working with groups, that's another thing we need to think about as healers. If you're working with groups that aren't as awesome as some of the other groups you run with, we're all going to run with varying skill levels. Try and assess how good they are and what they need. If they need extra heals because they're dying a lot, then don't be afraid to throw on a set that gives you extra heals. Like Winters, they might need it. They're going to benefit more from that probably than you just buff him up with Zens and MK if they're dead. But yeah, I love Winters. It's a nice, easy way to put together. Winter's Respite and Heaties, just put it together and just nobody dies. Okay, any questions? I think I'm pretty much done there. I don't want to talk on for forever and ever because I get too excited.
Do you run Resto and Destro?
Oh yeah, I actually never talked about that, did I at all? Yes, I do run Resto and Destro. Most of the time I run my back bar is going to be a lightning staff or an eye. In this case it's an eye staff because RNG won't give me a Gossamer lightning staff that I've got. So, but yeah, I run a Resto and Destro. You don't have to though. As crazy as it seems, double Resto can work. Double Destro can work as well. Is there anything you want to add to that? Sorry.
No, I just have another question about a skill.
Okay, shoot.
Okay, in the Physic line, that imbue weapon, is that a decent skill to run? I don't run it, but I've had someone mention it to me.
Is this element? Is it second skill down?
No, wait, maybe it's not that one.
Oh, you're talking Mend Wounds.
I may be talking about Mend Wounds, yes.
Yeah, Mend Wounds is the it's the one that Bennix was running earlier. It's got its place. The light attack and the heavy attack. Particularly the heavy attack, because it's really weird looking skill. Because I can't really show you because I don't have it actually. I say I don't have it unlocked.
I don't either.
I can actually. And so it's a weird looking skill. Have I got active now? Oh, there we go. So there we go. And it's kind of weird, like the light attacks will just do this little heal, and you could throw them out, and it's like throwing out healing balls. But then the heavy attack is really, really nice because it gives you that burst heal on that solo target. The only downside is you can't cast any other abilities while it's going on. And so,
what does it scale off of?
I see.
Like everything else, it's all your other skills. It's going to scale off your crit, your max magicka pool because I believe it's a magicka ability. I presume it's a magicka ability. Let's put it that way. It's going to scale off, let's say, your max magicka, your spell power, and your spell crit. I'm not sure if it would help having CP points in it. I don't even want to talk about CP because I was thinking there's no point. Because I haven't had a chance to look at the new tree yet when it comes out, and that's probably all going to change everything that we're doing anyway. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Talking about Destro Resto actually before I get off on and that the reason why we run a Resto or Destro because of Ellie Drain. Everybody will ask you to run Elemental Drain.
Right.
But yeah, so somebody put 4 Siphon on that. That looks like 4 Siphon.
Yeah, quick siphon.
Yeah, Siphon is like, it does exactly the same thing as Ellie Drain. We're missing the breach part of it, but the tank's going to give you the breach, which is why I don't understand it. Siphon's great, especially if you've got the new Vatron staff. That's extra. That's like looks awesome, especially if you're going to be close by your targets, because that's like puts like a tether between you and the actual enemy, and anybody in between starts getting resources back. And so, like, yeah, that's like awesome. But yeah, it also 4 Siphon does like the life steal as well, so it does the same thing as the your altar. So it's a really good skill. So you don't necessarily have to run a Destro if you want to run double Resto. That's way well doable. I can see bow builds coming up. To be honest, bow healers coming up as being a thing, because like when this new CP lands, because bow's going to give you spell damage as well.
Yeah, and off balance is going away, so lightning staffs really aren't going to matter.
Yep.
The off balance is going to move?
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be much harder to get stuff. So yeah, and so that's an ice staff might be the new thing to come, or 2 resto staffs might be a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
focused around brittle a lot for sure. Because they're fixing that so that meme doesn't take it off. Because right now brittle's completely broken.
Yeah, so it's going to be like a changing about the guard for us, but I like it. I like the fact we're going to be challenged again. I like the fact that we're going to have to think about our builds and put them all together, and as long as we continue doing what we're doing, like healing wise, yeah, everything else we put on top is, you know, it's icing on cakes, really, to be honest. Any other questions? Cool.
No. Thank you, though.
No worries at all. The next time I'll probably do one of these. Is it just arrow shield device? Is it just an arrow shield device? I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. Is it just a arrow shield device? Somebody wants to explain that one to me.
No, it's I think he's asking if the frost shield is projectiles only.
Oh, no, it's not. No.
If I had to guess, but I don't know. Gives you magicka back though, even if the tank casts it and it's on you and you take damage, you get magicka back for it. That's why it's nice.
Yep.
Thanks, Riddings.
Yeah, no worries, no problems at all. Yep. Okay, thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate it. As I said, I'll probably I'll look to doing I'll probably do a Mag DK healer talk at some point, because like I love them so much, but I can't even swear that wouldn't go on for like 2 or 3 hours, because I mean, I seriously love Mag DK healers.
Well, I'm actually working on a Dragonite healer right now.
Oh, they're the best. Just yeah. I'm going to stop right there, because otherwise, I won't. Brandy's telling me
for
to
days.
She's like, go to bed. Before I start off. But thanks everybody coming out. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And I say, any questions or anything like that you want to shoot me at any time, just shoot it out. And I'll put some of these sets up on the healer channel on Discord as well, so people can see. Perfect. Okay, you guys have a good night. I'll later, status.
Thank you.